Hello, welcome back again to another episode of the Trekway with Mr. Gray and myself, Trev. Hello, thank you for
Howdy.
joining us all. We are reviewing the finale today of Lower Decks, episode 10, season 3, The Stars at Night, it's called. And part of me is glad it's finished, and a little part of me is sad, which, I'll explain why as we get into it. We'll briefly just mention at the start, we'll leave our scores to the end of the review, but at the start, we'll just kick off and say that it was a decent finale. It was maybe even a good finale for me, but certainly not 10 out of 10. There was some flaws there and issues, which you'll get to. I think Gray thought a bit less of it than myself, didn't you, Gray? Without kind of spoiling the
Right.
review.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so there you go. So he doesn't want to spoil nothing. He's going to rip at a new one, I think, safe to say. Yeah, I think some of it comes down to it's a canon thing, and them not doing their homework enough because I think it's a cartoon. They get away with a lot more, and some things it should be are not, and because those things are no longer done properly by the writers, they kind of then become, in some respects, new canon, which I hate, but it's live action, so that's the rules of the game. But we'll talk about those points why we dislike them. And Gray's, he's putting a lot more notes than usual. That says something. He just adds to my
Yeah,
notes, but he's got.
because I was that's because I was livid about some stuff.
It's all
I guess
green, man. It's green. Where's that from? What scene's that from, people? Right, okay. Well, we'll kick off then.
Soylent Green.
Romulan
Remember
Ale.
Soylent Green? You
Oh,
probably remember that.
remember that? Scotty
Romulan Ale's
gets.
blue.
Oh, what was it? Oh no, Romulan Ale's blue. So it is. It's the green stuff that Scotty was drinking with one of the officers
Actually,
on the
there's
Enterprise.
yeah,
Is that
I'm
a
trying to
Klingon or
remember
a?
because there's actually different. No, it was a whiskey of some kind, but it was
Yeah,
a
and he's pissed, isn't he? He's proper pissed because he doesn't drink synthahol. I love him. I knew he's a true Scotsman. I knew it. Yes. Synthahol. What is that? It's when he's on Enterprise D. He's like synthahol.
And by the way, plug for Trekway that you're watching right now. There's this James Doohan tribute interview I did 30 years ago or whatever. That's on there, but I also pick and chose my images carefully. But there's one in there that I really liked, which was a meme. I think you saw it, Trev, about Scotsman, and the meme comes up and has Scotty, and it goes, he says, "How tough are Scotsmen?" And Scotty's going, "Laddie, I'm the only one wearing a red shirt that's not dead." I love that. I don't know who did that meme, but it was perfect.
That's one of my favourite tribute interviews that Gray done back in the day, and I would recommend you check them out, people. If you on our YouTube, we have different playlists. We have specials, one-offs. We do like random ad hoc episodes. We do ones from series.
You want to tease what interview's coming next? It's up to you.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. This Monday it's dropping. It's Jonathan Frakes. It's a bit more short and sweet and to the point, and the audio's a little bit better. But bear in mind, Gray's ripping this from cassettes back in the day, so we do the best we can with them. But if you just turn the volume up a bit, job's a good one. But yeah, no, you'll love the James Doohan one because you'll find out why he chose that accent that he did. It was up to him what accent he chose, so you'll find out all about him, and it's a thorough one of my favourites. So I know there's another playlist for reviews, not reviews, interviews, which you can listen to as well. So yeah, that's a little diverge from us like we normally do, but we'll crack into the episode. Thank you for your patience. Right, so this is the finale, so I'm expecting big things. We've got the Cerritos in for repair at Douglas Station. After it's pounding from the brine, and I think I quoted that actually, so they're using that term now. They're using that term because they're used to getting a pounding so much, which we'll cover,
Exactly.
That's now the new thing. We're taking a pounding yet again. Punch bag. The pure Cerritos is the punch bag of the Cali fleet.
Of Starfleet.
Of the whole Starfleet. This is true, mate. This is very true. But I love to see an old-fashioned starbase again. Because you see different kinds, but that's my favourite kind. I don't know if the grade, the name's got a class, but I just call it the old-fashioned type star bases because I prefer them. They don't have a class, do they? Like a starship.
I guess technically, if you're really into the deep canon. I believe they do. I don't know which,
Pass.
but
Yeah, because there's so
that's
many
stuff that
types,
you
isn't there?
can get. I mean, if anybody's interested in getting that deep, you can always go to the Memory Alpha site, and they
True.
get like really deep
They
in this stuff.
really deep, yeah. They are the experts in the wiki of the whole Star Trek universe. But yeah, so they are getting a repair. Captain Freeman goes in for an update, a shakedown, if you like, with Starfleet Council to see, what the hell happened with Project Swing By, why it wasn't successful. Carol Freeman's trying to defend everything that happened here, and it turns out Starfleet are seriously considering scuttling the whole Cali class and replacing them with those new Texas class automated ships that we saw last time. That AI controlled. That's part of the charm or the dislike of them, because apparently they done so well last time. Let's scuttle the fleet. Now, Gray's got a bit of a rant about this. I'll let you finish off this point here, Gray.
Okay, so when I heard that this was happening with this AI controlled stuff, I just started thinking back because there was an episode of the original series, season 2, episode 24 to be exact, called "The Ultimate Computer." And in that episode, it's one of the best episodes of the original Trek, and I've seen that
Yeah.
episode multiple times. So I know the episode really well. And the thing that hit me like all of a sudden was the fact that they, in my opinion, this was not an homage to that episode. This was a complete ripoff of the episode because a lot of the stuff that they did in there is stuff that you saw in that original episode. And then as we go into it later on, they actually ruined a lot of the stuff that they should have known because canon is canon. So that episode is canon, and the writers seem to have forgotten this or don't care. I don't know which. Um, but that was the part of the thing that hit me right away all of a sudden. The second big problem I had was Starfleet, after being founded on manned exploration, okay, is giving in just so easily for AI controlled ships for what should be handled by a real crew. Makes no sense to me because I'm sitting there going like, what? Starfleet was founded on the fact that they wanted on purpose manned starships going out there doing the job. So the
Otherwise, they
only
could have
thing that
done AI from the very start, Gray, couldn't they? The very
exactly,
start and
why
not bothered with
bother?
anything, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there going, so that's like, and you're telling me this is an entire council. I mean, if you looked at the table that she was at, they had something like, I don't know, 8 admirals or whatever from around Starfleet. So this was not something that was you know, just a one-off. This was a
Yeah.
serious meeting.
Yeah.
So a huge contingent of Starfleet high mucky mucks all of a sudden decide, yeah, sure, I think we should just abandon this and scuttle the Cali. Yeah, that makes total sense. And I'm sitting there going like, "Are you kidding me? That is freaking ridiculous." I say AI ships are only good for probing or gathering basic information so that a real starship and a real crew can be sent in for first, second, third, 25 contact, whatever. That's the whole premise that Starfleet was built on, and you just crapped on it, writers. You just crapped on it and didn't even think twice about it. Ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot to agree in that one, Gray. I mostly agree in it. I'm thinking from the story plot idea, their logic will be, and again, I'm going logic, not whether I like or dislike it. So don't shoot the messenger. That their the reason for getting rid of the Cali class will be because the Cali class's main purpose, not sole purpose, but main purpose is swing bys, second contacts, which are important, but they're a secondary job. So that's why they treat the whole class, I think, in their eyes, I think in the Admiral's eyes, Starfleet's eyes, as they're just a bit shit, aren't they? All these ships and the crew and stuff, which we'll see at the end of the episode. That's not the case without throwing in early spoilers. But great, it's hard to kind of mostly disagree with you there. So it's pretty infuriating. If you want to use a plot, if you want to use an idea for a plot, writers, don't just grab anything and put it in. Research it a bit and see if it'll work. While all this works in theory, Does it work practically? No, because as Gray said, that Starfleet's not about that. They do use automated ships, sure they do, but it's a small number of them, and they're not for something as serious as a second contact. They're for crap jobs, things that you can't put people into, poisonous atmospheres, nebulas, things that are too far away and would take forever even for a starship, things like that.
Well, you and I mentioned this in the last thing we did, and that is the fact that in the original series, they did have an unmanned ship. There was an episode where they had an unmanned freighter that simply was like a train carrying freight, and this thing was automated to carry the freight to and from.
A lot of cargo ships like that back in Scott Bakula's day, back in Enterprise days, wasn't it?
So that there's a reason for having an AI ship do that because you're just going in normal
Straight lines.
lanes. There's never any danger. They're just import export. Fine.
Yeah.
That's exactly the way it should be. But this was just taking canon and going like, here's canon.
Yeah, for a serious thing that's still second contact's not first contact, but it's still important. You could piss off a whole species.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you think about it, especially in terms of this show, the way I think about it, and I'm not saying I'm a Einstein, but second contact would be every bit as important as first contact. In some ways, maybe even more, because you have to go in there and you have to continue to nurture what the first contact people did, and that could go crazy or bad really easy. Because what if the group that you came to said, "Oh, I preferred Picard and his crew. Who are you?" You've got to sit there and like convince them, well, we're just as capable and we need to further our relationship that Picard started or whoever started, right? Kirk's Picard, doesn't matter. So in some ways, the second contact is every bit as important as the first. In my eyes, that's seems awfully logical.
Fair enough
to me.
It is very important. I think the reason for me, first contact always been the most important. It's that little bit more important than the second because it's your first impression. First impressions are everything, but second contact, right. For the most part, certainly in my eyes, Gray. You've got to follow up with another strong opinion and of yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to end up ruining your relations with other species.
I also think that the second contact importance was something that they did right in this episode. As you'll see later as we talk and stuff like that, they treat it as being it should be an important thing. So that part they did get right in the show. It wasn't a complete messed up. I know I'm pounding on stuff and rightly so, but there are some good
Makes
things.
a change from the Cerritos taking one. We'll cover that as well. You said pounding, and I went, it makes a change. You taking a pounding as opposed to the Cerritos, mate. I mean the whole point of the Cali class is predominantly the second contact thing. They do other stuff, of course they do, but so this is important, and we'll talk. We've talked about this. We'll talk about it later on in the episode. Why it's about, why it exists, and why it's vindicated in the end. But obviously that was a big serious point, and I knew we'd have to get some stuff off our chest with that one. Right, so we'll crack on. Our favorite ensigns find out the bad news that the Cali ships are going to get scuttled because it's pretty much been confirmed at this stage. And they're wondering how the bridge crew will take it. So bold Boymes, very bold right now, Gray. He starts doing impressions of the bridge crew and how they would handle the news. He does a good impression of Tiana because he's literally, he literally says a line that Tiana would say with a swear word in the middle, and it's beeped out, and I went, nice one, Boymes, nice. He then does Shax. Gray's not happy about this. He does Shax, and Shax walks in, and I'm doing this behind him. And I'm like, oh, he's behind you. It turns around, oh, shit, I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry. And he plays the tough card initially, that's how I sound, right, fine then. And I wanted to, come in, get my phaser looked at, but screw you guys kind of thing, and walks away, and he's just walking away, he starts crying. Now, I thought it was you seeing the emotional side of him, right? Which gets vindicated in a little bit, but Gray wasn't very happy with this, were you, Gray?
Nope. First of all, when he was when he first started arguing with Boymes about what he did or the impression, you could see that the expression in Shax's face changed which you could see that he was hurt a little bit. That was enough. You didn't have to do
Yeah.
anything more than that. But then he turns around, he starts crying like a baby, and I'm going like, "Are you kidding me? This is Shax, number one. Number two, he's a Bajoran. Hello, there goes Cannon out the
The
window
toughest
again.
species in the Alpha Quadrant.
Thank you, writers. Bajorans don't cry like that. If they cry, it's for a good reason. So did Kieran Reese cry during the entire 7 seasons or whatever of Deep Space Nine? Yeah, occasionally, but it was for a damn good reason.
Yeah, sort of
This is
God died or
nothing.
something. Person.
Yeah, this is nothing. Exactly. He's a Bajoran on top of it all, and yet he cries. I'm like, come on, are you kidding me? I'm sitting there going, just totally wrong. Writers, he's messed up once again.
There'll
Okay,
be lots of that.
I'm ready for. I'll hold back for my next beef.
Yeah, there'll be more negative points, but there are good points as well.
Yeah.
And I'll try and bring it up a little bit because we're a bit. Gray thinks less for this episode than I do, which is entitled to. And that's why we love the debate. So we then eventually catch up with Mariner. I need to stop calling her Beckett because that's her first name. I like call people by their surname. It either comes to sports or Star Trek, you use their surname. I don't know why, but you just do. So anyway, Mariner, we find out what she's doing. She's went all Indiana Jones on us, Gray. You see her swinging from platform to ancient platform away from the Ferengi. We don't know if she's got an artifact in her hand, under her arm, sorry, and we don't know if I don't think she's stolen it off them. More likely, she's interrupted them getting the artifact or stole it off them from the scene because, Ferengi, you know what they're like. So she literally, she's dodging all these phaser shots as if they weren't there. I'm sorry, Ferengi. Like, they are maybe scum of the universe, but they're not that bad a shot. They're not going to miss all those shots. So your inaccuracy there, writers. She avoids so many of them. I'm like, makes a mockery, and I'm like, wasn't a big fan of that. I never noted that down either. Did you, Gray? But I think we both agree on that.
No,
point.
I agree with you totally, and I saw that, but I was sitting there trying going like, I'm gonna cut some slack for the writers because they're doing so bad so far.
Wow, you all right, man? You feeling okay?
I
Let me take your
cut them a
temperature.
little bit of slack. That was a minor point compared to the stuff I already talked about and the stuff that's still coming.
Yeah, no, this is true. So we wonder, we Beckett Mariner, sorry, wonders how the architect's paying for all the equipment. Seems very suspect. You like this part, Gray, apparently?
Yeah, I'm archaeologist, by the way. She is. I thought the whole scene, the whole development of Beckett from when we saw the episode before where she took off with the archaeologist lady, forgot her name, sorry.
I don't know her name either. Do you know that?
I should, but I don't. Whatever.
The English architect lady. That's all we know.
But that whole thing was great. That was one of the good parts of the episode. They totally took what happened before. It made complete sense to what Beckett would do in a situation like that. She was having a good time. In fact, I liked the scene so much that I would like to see more. I'd like to see a spin-off show.
Oh Jesus! Wow.
to have the archaeologist and Beckett go off on these adventures.
Well, that could happen. Spoiler: what happens later?
Well, I'm saying you could do a lot with that if you think about it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's how much I like those scenes. Those scenes were very, very good. It made total sense. The character, when they were in character, it made sense to everything that's been going on. No problems there. You did right with the writers. Not much, but that part you got right.
Fair enough. So we'll cut the writer some tiny bit of slack there. I think Gray his negative energy was affecting me there, that I thought I had to pick on such a small point before. But yes, he is right. Let's leave them. Let's give them some slack. So Captain Freeman is trying to challenge this whole scurrying the Cali class ships when it's confirmed, and she's trying to give the positive points of Project Swing By and what it can actually do for the Federation. As a kind of compensation, though, Admiral, here we go, Buen amigo, right? We had Spanish Admiral down so many times. Gray's actually went and actually found out his name, so cheers, Gray. Goddamn Spanish Admiral. But I do like this character, Buen amigo. He literally says, Carol, here you go. We will actually want to make you fleet captain of the Texas class, which normally, any other day you'd be like, wow, that is it's a promotion. It's not a massive promotion, but it's a promotion. I like to think of it as kind of to the right or the left slightly rather than going up, but it's a bigger responsibility. So a lot of captains may have accepted this, but she's like, no, I'm not interested in that. That's not what I'm about. Winnebago shows the fancy new uniform with like kind of more little notches on it. It just looks overkill. He's trying to sell it with kind of some bling and some gold. She's like not interested at all.
By the way, I want to interrupt that whole
You
the
can
whole
do.
scene where she was given this token thing where she's going to lead the class of unmanned ships. Okay, is again another lift out of the Ultimate Computer, because in
Oh,
the
really?
Ultimate Computer, I'm not going to give it away because y'all should go see the episode.
Yeah.
But in Ultimate Computer, there's a scene with Kirk, a very good scene with Kirk that basically is where this came from, more or less. It's not exact, but you'll know it when you see it in the episode. And they did a crappy job of how they did it here, but it was that was the homage part. It went right to that episode. But again, not written like that episode. You're talking about an A+ episode of the original series to this, and it doesn't even compare. But as I'm watching the episode, I can see where they're throwing back, because they do that a lot, but they're throwing back in the wrong ways on some of the stuff back to that episode. But anyway,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, it's a nice little addition to that point, actually, because I didn't know that. So, no, she knocks it back, safe to say. Captain Freeman knocks it back, says no chance, and she says, instead, let me prove the worth of the Cali class, of my crew, my ship, of Project Swingby, and she challenges Bonamago to a mission race. It's going to be a second contact race. It's a thing that they've partly made up on the fly. That's what they're calling it in a discussion between the captain and the commander. The idea being that they're going to go to a few different planets and literally do a second contact as quickly as possible, give them what they need, and then warp on to the next one. Whoever wins is keeping their job, basically. So I like this. I like this little race that is set up.
Yeah.
It was a good way to test that, and I think Gray does as well. So everyone's getting ready for this test here, basically. And one thing that I do remember, but Gray actually did note here as they're getting ready, the chief engineer, I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, me too, but that's okay.
It's annoying, frustrating. It's at the tip of my tongue. He says he literally wants to see Commander Data level of work, which was a nice little nod to superior Data here. Tiana's... Here we go. This is one of the best bits of the episode.
Here's one of our favorite people.
Here we go.
Tiana Cat.
Captain Dr. Cat Tiana. She says she didn't spend 7 effing years on a goddamn Oberon to be knocked down to station position. This whole time she's walking about with a whip in her hand, just like Stalin, just whipping this thing, threatening people.
Keeping everybody smacking them around.
This is it. You can hear her. You can hear her yell in the background still as Tendi speaks to the councillor, the bird councillor. God knows what his name is. Like, some of them have funky names. She then runs up to him and smacks him with a whip. She's saying, What are you doing here? Get the F out of my sick bay." Gray's chuckling at this. Gray's mentioned a couple of times here these quality comments. Safe to say, Tiana's both of her favourite characters. I mean, I love Shax as well, but Tiana just edges it for me. I don't know about you, Gray.
Oh, definitely. I was when she gets the stuff that's just tailor made for her character, like the scene. It's just freaking hilarious, just totally hilarious. I couldn't handle it. It was so great. She just comes up and goes, and when she talked about Oberon, that's a class of ship that's like a low end.
The hardcore Trekkies should know that one. Definitely.
Right, exactly. So when she said that, it was even funnier. And then while Counselor and Tendi are talking, out of nowhere, completely nowhere, she smacks them with
runs up,
just,
yeah,
get the F
and
out of my
meows
sick bay. What are you doing here? Get the F out of my sick. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like,
here's a point, Grace.
I'm rolling.
See the actress that plays her, right? Now, I can't remember the actress' name, but I am so jealous. What a job she's got. Can you imagine that? She can come in and just F this and F that and S this and S that. What a field day to come in and just let it all out.
You know what I would like to see, and maybe one day
behind the scenes in the booth.
I want No.
What?
Even better than that. Okay. I would like to see those scenes with no bleeps put into like a blooper reel.
Oh yeah, yes, blooper
Oh
reel only,
man,
Gray.
if you could put them all together, all
Yep.
all her scenes, it would be the best. It would be the best and funniest stuff. Take out all the bleeps, every scene Tiana is
Yep.
in, and just let it go.
As
I would pay. I would pay money
as
seriously
long
to
as
have
it's
that.
blooper only, because I think we touched on this before. You're maybe for them not bleeping it. I am for bleeping them because it adds to the whole character that it is naughty and they have to bleep it out. It makes it worse almost, But I get your point. If it's a blooper thing, hell yes, because it may be even funnier, to be fair. So yeah, Dr. Katiana making episode. I swear to God, Gray, her and Shax, especially her, actually on their own can bring a score out of 10 by 1 or 2 points alone because of their scenes. So,
Easy.
But yeah, so what we see here, Gray was not happy with this. We again see Shax after crying over Boimler's earlier comments. You're not happy about this again still, Gray. You thought they maybe have done it as a one-off scene and left it, but no, they showed him still upset, yeah.
Exactly. I don't like the way they handled it the first time, and then why would they have to do it again? There's no reason to do it again. None. Zero.
I have to agree with that.
And they have to throw it in again, and I'm sitting there going, oh, please,
I can maybe let it away first
time,
but yeah. No, I agree, Gray. I agree, mate. It's you're making them too soft now. I get that even the biggest bears are a little bit soft sometimes, but that's come on, you're making it be a wimp now.
Right. And he was soft in some ways when you mention a bear, which we'll see later to Boimler.
Yeah.
That made sense. But the rest of it, come on, man. It's like,
Gray's not happy. So now we kick off the race, right? This is the good stuff. I like races in Star Trek. It's just fun and naughty, and it shouldn't be allowed, but it is. So the race starts. They both warp away, and the Aledo, the main ship of the Texas class line, asked Admiral if we should go, and he's like, no, give the Cerritos a head start as he starts piping a cigar up, which I thought was a nice little touch. While they're kind of warping to one location to another, the Cerritos, because of its head start, literally gets to where it's going and gets its prefab down there and starts fine-tuning it and tweaking it with engineers. But the Aledo comes in behind it and then literally just beams a whole prefab unit down. Now, I haven't noted this down either as Gray, but I'm not sure if this is technically possible in Star Trek or not. Let's say, argument's sake, it is. I still think it's a bit far-fetched to beam a whole prefab. This thing's huge, this unit. This is the size of a building, right?
Yeah.
And it's beamed down in one go. Now, while it's technically possible in Star Trek, you would need a whole ship in theory, because this is Gray and I, we dig into these little points because they matter to us. You would have to have a massive ship with massive power levels and a massive replicator and beaming unit to get it down in one go. And this Aledo ship is smaller than a Cali class, I think, anyway. It's not bigger than it. So
not bigger.
It doesn't make sense for it. And it's
also not the class of ship to be doing that.
Yeah, no, it is more the AI, it's the nippy ship, it's the fast ship, it's got good armaments, it's not designed for that. That would be like a big science vessel that would maybe do that stuff. So that was...
Or guess what? An unmanned freighter.
There it goes, right? Say let it's got its use. So yeah, it literally beams it down in one go, and it's like, hold my beer. I can almost say the Aledo with a beer outside its nacelle going, watch how I do this. Boink. And the guys are like, all the officers are like, oh shit, right, okay, let's get snapping, right? And this whole time, and it's happened a couple of times, Rutherford is kind of distracted by code on his pad, which we will get to why that is the case. So he's like, sorry, like, let's go, let's finish tweaking this off. And because the Cerritos can't beam the units down in one go, it's a little bit behind at this stage. The race continues on. The Cerritos is falling behind because this same very planet that they're on, they think they've found microscopic signs of life. Now, they're a bit unsure. Should they just carry on? Maybe it's fine, Gray. But no, they consult. Tindy consults the doctor, and she says, no, you were right to contact us. We have to be safe. She scans it, and it turns out there's nothing there. It's fine. And you like this scene, Gray, because they're playing it by the book, as you should do.
Right, exactly. It made sense to the whole Prime Directive. When she scanned it, she said that there could be sentient life, and if it's sentient life,
Did she
then
say
the Prime
sentient?
Directive
No, it was microscopic.
microscopic sentient life. She said that.
What? Are you sure? Is that a thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could be on any level. You
How
don't
can
know.
you be intelligent if you're the size of a microbe?
That doesn't matter in
I'll give you
relation to
benefit of the
what.
doubt, mate. If
The
you
point
think
is that she said it could be microscopic sentient life, and out in space you don't know.
no,
That's
of
what they
course.
explore things for. So she's going by the book, which she's supposed to, and I thought that was a great scene. And then I thought the scene with the doctor, one of the few scenes Dr. Tana doesn't curse. Tendi was feeling bad, because when the doctor scanned it with better equipment, he finds out there is no sentient life. So she felt bad, but the doctor immediately told her, says, "Look, you didn't do anything wrong." It says these kind of things, and and I forgot the word she used, some kind of
And say doctor word.
uh, babble speak or what a techno speech, techno babble. And she said that these things will screw up the best tricorders. So she
Yeah,
made her feel better by
yeah.
saying, "Look, you didn't have my equipment. You did the right thing. Don't feel bad." And she did do the right thing.
Yep,
And so I
true.
thought that was one of the few scenes where Tiana doesn't come on funny and curse. She
But
actually
it
played it
works. It's fine.
great,
Yeah.
and it worked. And she was again. She does
It's
that.
it's the
That character, even when she's serious, she's good.
Well, see, normally we would complain, Gray and I, that she said a line and she's not swore because she's had serious lines and moments before, and we've said, why the hell did she not swear? Or why the F did she not swear, ironically, because that's what she does. But this time, yeah, it worked without her swearing because she had to be
Right.
genuine serious for a
Right.
moment. But whether it was microscopic, if the microbes were sentient or not, right, doesn't matter. Even if they weren't sentient, I think whenever you're doing anything on a planet at that level, you've got to make sure there's no sign of life at all. That's the whole point. So she done the right thing, Tindy, by calling that one in to be the safe side. So it turns out it's good. Nothing there. They basically have to carry on and catch up with their mission. The next part of their second contact race, the Cerritos, is a planet called Omenic 9 or something like that. This was cool, right? Because this planet only phases into our known dimension for a few hours every year. Now, this had been done in Star Trek a few times before, and every time it's been great. It's one of the few things they haven't overused in Star Trek, actually. I've seen it in Voyager before, I've seen it in TNG, just off the top of my head. I love it. I love that you can still have a first or second contact with a species, even though they're about for like no existence at all. The Aledo delivers its supplies in time, as we expect, but the Cerritos turns up too late, and the planet vanishes, which seems like game over. But something to note as well that when the planet phases in, you actually see a couple of the locals. And they're sitting down there in like an old hamlet village type thing, like proper. Like, why are you doing first contact or second contact with these people? No way, because they're a pre-warp civilization. Christ, they're Stone Age almost, just from what we see. But anyway, we're nitpicking here, and we see that the two people, the lady, she knows these supplies are coming, and the guy's just bored. He's like, "Are we there yet? Are we there? Come on, like I'm bored. Let's do something." I found that amusing with these guys. The prefab unit comes down from the Aledo, and they're like, "Yes, all these supplies, not prefab. It was just supplies." Comes down, and then we catch up the Cerritos Aledo in space in orbit, and they look a bit gutted because essentially they look like they've failed the race because they couldn't do anything. You like this scene as well, Gray? You're happy with Phase and Planet? It's a good Trek episode usually when that's in it.
Yeah, I mean, because I think it was something that was necessary and made sense to the basic storyline, Prime Directive, the whole thing. And even though Tendi felt bad, it was something that you were supposed to do, that you had to do.
Yep.
And this, of course, is what we bring up coming up soon, where things later in the episode where this makes a big difference.
It does.
I don't want to jump ahead, but
it makes a massive difference. Because I mean, I was thinking this straight away, Gray, when that point comes up that you're thinking of. That, well, I know they're going to use it. They have to. and that's not a bad thing. So they're down and out. They've lost the race. Everyone looks gutted on the Cerritos. They're all kind of drinking their sorrow, drowning their sorrows. You know, what's going to happen? Where are we going to go? And as we knew, as I suspected, I think most of us did, including Gray and I, the Ladle did not scan for signs of life on that first planet in this race. So Freeman is going to take this to the Starfleet Council. And the whole time this is happening, Rutherford has been checking the code of the Ladle several times. So you see him do it. You see him look at the ship fascinated initially, and it'll make sense why. You see him on his pad checking the code of the ship constantly. Like, this is deja vu. This seems familiar, and it is. Finds out it's his own code because remember he's like a part of him cybernetic. I know it's very Borg-esque, but his implant and he's got a little bit of cybernetics in there for his memory and whatnot and his vision here, and he recognises it. He then gets a little bit of a malfunction with this kind of eye patch thing he's got, sensor thing, and he sees the rest of the vision from before when it was kind of in the last season, or was it beginning this season? Yeah, beginning this season. It was kind of
happened a couple times.
Yeah, you couldn't see the person in the image, but you could see the people that kidnapped him before and what actually happened. But the main guy was kind of covered out, and that was fine. We're going to find out who it was. It turned out, and this I didn't see this coming. It was Admiral Buonabago. He is the one that done it. Made a lot of sense at this stage here. Everything, the pieces are fitting together nicely. He's the one that erased his memory. You loved this part as well, Gray. Safe to say, we both thought this was an excellent little plot line. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they continued and wrapped up the plot line from the previous several episodes and so forth, if you count them all. And I think I didn't see the mystery person coming to be Admiral. I thought that was going to be maybe something different. But then when it did happen, it made all the sense in the world, and then tied in perfectly to the now evil, if you want to call it that, Admiral Buenamigo. And so now it all ties up and ties into everything perfectly. Since his memory's coming back, Rutherford's seeing this, he saw it. Now it confirms it. So all that stuff again.
Pieces fit nicely now.
Right. I'll give due credit to the writers. That stuff really, really went nicely. It's just, I think that's probably what messes me up even more so, because some of the stuff that they wrote and some of the scenes were really good and other ones were complete crap. So it's just like this, you know.
See, Gray, this is why I think this is part of the reason why we get annoyed. Certainly I do, because these writers are proven they can write good stuff. They can write good stuff. They're just not consistent. And it seems to be as much bad stuff as there is good stuff.
You know what it seems like to me, and again, we don't know because we don't know what happens in the writer's room. But it's almost like two different people are writing this. It's like one guy's writing the stuff that with this following the story, and then the other guy jumps in to write this other stuff. But that still doesn't mean that they're not at fault. They are, because they're in a writer's room, and the head writer is the one that's controlling the room, like it does for every TV show, every movie. So it's the head writer's responsibility to get canon correct. Yes, of course, they've stretched canon here and there. Okay, fine. Once in a while that plays out. Okay. But when you just come in there and just totally wreck it, and you're the head writer and you're letting this happen, sorry, you don't get a pass.
I would like to know about this, the head writer, because that's the most essential part of this puzzle with the writing team. Right. They are responsible. He or she is responsible for what happens, the canon, everything. And that's why, slightly diversion for a moment, Gray, completely actually, that's why I've got a lot of faith for season 3 of Picard, because I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a different showrunner. He is a massive TNG nerd. You can hear it, you can see it. It makes so much sense why all the cast to TNG are back, and I genuinely think it's going to be great. It
only took them 2 seasons to get it right.
I know. Well, showrunner really helps as well. Get a showrunner that's a big Trekkie, because they're going to do justice to it. We appreciate that there's new people coming into Star Trek, and you have to... it's a bloody hard job trying to keep Trekkies happy and new people happy. I know it is. I don't envy anyone that has to do it, but don't piss off your main hardcore audience that would keep it afloat regardless, and then focus about getting new people in. and you'll keep everyone happy.
Again, it comes back to the same formula where, okay, maybe the fans out there like you and I are, and we might be a bit more hardcore, but the point is that why would you want to go out there and just PO the fans? I mean, we're not most of the fans out there are not stupid. They're actually pretty smart. And you're gonna pick and there's probably plenty of people, in fact, I know there's plenty of people that have picked up on all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And this is so blatant that you would have to be it doesn't take much of a Trek fan to realize how blatant some of these stupid things are, and a big one's coming up, so I'll hold off.
I think Gray likes to give people a heads up. This is coming in case you need to
Yep.
like pause it and go for a pee break or a drink break or take a big deep breath because
Yeah,
sometimes you need them.
Listen,
And we're going all the way
should-
through
you-
it without this, so we're staunch.
there's just one huge problem after another. That's why I keep on saying big problem. So
Yeah.
my big problem number 3 is coming.
Right, so moving on, we find out that again this point that we just discussed before of the Admiral being the perfect bad guy here, and all the puzzle pieces fitting together. The DS9 kidnapping and the Breen attack were all part of the Admiral's plans, right? And I thought, brilliant, season-long arc, it's making sense. This is the best of both worlds, Gray. You can have your season-long arc, which new Star Trek's doing, but also have episodic episodes as well. That's the best of both worlds, and other Trek series take note. And Strange New Worlds continue doing your individual episodes. They work, that's fine, but you can have both. Just saying.
No, well, even Strange New Worlds, it's had the overarching thing.
It did.
The whole thing with
It did. Yeah.
Pike seeing his future.
That is true. That is true.
They didn't dwell on it too much. They just kind of, it was there.
It's the right way to do
dealt
it.
with it, but it wasn't right. Exactly.
Yeah. So the Admiral basically confesses to everything. He's like, yeah, I should have deleted your whole memory, Rutherford. He basically talks about how once you get to Admiral, you don't really have anywhere to go. That kind of pissed me off a little bit because I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's other levels of Admiral. There's bigger responsibilities. There's ambassadors. That is nonsense. It's not the same level of promotion after. I get that. But he basically wants to try and make a name for himself. So that's why he's coming up with this Texas-class automated ship using Rutherford's code, because it seems to initially work, to be fair. Because he's confessed everything, Gray, he literally commands the Lido to go fully autonomous. Basically means that it can have full control over its own actions. Everything's unlocked, and it's got to go and destroy the Cerritos. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go, ding dong, here we go between the ships.
Yep.
More space, more shit. The ship battles are good in this, right? The effects they do them from an animated point of view are good.
It just never should happen, but yeah.
This backfires apparently, which I'm surprised of, because Rutherford mentioned a comment before. No, it was Tindy actually went, really, they used your code? Oh, I can see daddy issues here, you know. And that was a little nod at Rutherford, and I didn't think much of it until this point. It backfires because the Lido was like, no, basically, I'm not going to do what you say. I'm fully autonomous now. Screw you. So it then actually turns round to one of the upper pylons of the space station where the Admiral's office is, turns round and blows up. And I'm thinking, yes, he's dead. You know, this is nice. We've still got 10 minutes of the episode to go. What the hell is going on here?
I got to interject for a second. Very cool scene. Would never happen.
Yeah, I mentioned here that the station's defences.
But we're going to get to the reason why in a minute.
What would assume, Gray, is that the ship is inside the shield at this point. In fact, it will be, because it's supposed to be a friendly ship. So I think that's why it done that. But your point coming up is still warranted, because that shit happens outside the shields for sure. So it's starting to heat up now, the final act, or the final third of the episode. The Lido then is its own complete ship with everything attached. So it literally hails the other two Texas-class ships to come online, which are in that space station. And they're called the Dallas and the Corpus Christi. I've heard that phrase before, or name before, Corpus Christi. Does that make... Do you know that, Gray?
Those are cities in Texas.
Oh, the Corpus Christi is the name of a city.
Yeah.
Why does it get two names? That's just confusing.
It's one name. It's just one.
It's Corpus Christi.
2 words, one name.
Well, I've heard
of Las Vegas. right? Los Angeles,
I've
Las Vegas.
heard of
2
Dallas, but
words, one name.
okay, you're proving your point.
That's
The
all.
Dallas I've heard of. Of course, everyone has. But Corpus Christi I had not heard of. So this is interesting. I wish they would use more cities from around the world and not focus it so much in the States. But that's because I'm not American, I guess. The station is no match
Did
for
originate
these.
over here.
It was invented over there. That's true. Best
Yeah, well,
engineer
you're right.
ever that existed in Star Trek was Scottish, though. Just saying. So the station is no match for these 3 Texas class ships and starts taking a pounding. The pounding theme is here yet again. The Cerritos puts out a distress call to try and get some help. Now, Gray, I'll let you take a breath and go for this one. You're not happy about this one, and I kind of agree with you to an extent.
Man. I'll have to take a big breath. Okay, so this is big problem number 3, I call it. I'm already livid and angry at big problem number 1 and 2. And now here comes another one. First, a Starfleet station of that size is equipped with near planetary scale shields. We're not talking about a little dinky station or just one ship. This is a massive size body. It's like the size of a small moon.
Yeah.
Okay, so it has planetary scale shields. It has an immense power. Okay, there's no way one ship would ever do damage like that to a station. I don't care if the weapons are so-called new or experimental. That's all crap. Even 3 ships, which we now have 3 Texas class ships, could not take that kind of damage on a station. It would take a long time to get through the shields. That's the way it's designed. And then when those shields are finally starting to buckle, perhaps that's plenty of time for any kind of starships in the area to come around and help out. Now, we're not talking about 3 sovereign class ships, which are the top of the line ships at the time. Okay, these are 3 Texas class ships. They're not sovereigns, not as good as sovereigns, not as powerful as sovereigns, but they're just
You don't know
slicing through
that.
the station.
You don't know they're not as powerful as the Sovereign.
They're not. Believe me, it's just not. Sovereign's top of the line. So you're telling me those little Alitos are top of the line better than the Sovereign? No.
You
And
don't know their
so
specs.
even if they are, it doesn't even matter. You could have 3 sovereign ships firing on that station, and you're not going to get through the shields right away. It just won't happen.
Right.
Now, on top of that, the stations are loaded, and I mean loaded, with big time defensive weaponry. That's the way they're designed. Otherwise, any enemy fleet could just batter stations anytime they wanted to without a problem. No, the stations are very well protected for a reason. On top of that, the stations generally are located in areas where there's always several starships around that can be called in immediately. So none of these ships come in except towards the end when a sovereign class comes in. So you're not gonna bring down the shields. You're not gonna make a mess out of the ship, even with 3 Texas class. There's just no way that's gonna happen. On top of that, you have the defensive weapons bearing down on you, which will make it even harder to try to overcome the fact that you're to take down that station. So that whole thing is utterly ridiculous, complete fantasy, and the writers are completely out of their mind. There you go.
Okay, right. So there's definitely something in that, Gray. I partly agree with that. What I would say to be devil's advocate here is what I think, and until this is said by a writer or someone, a showrunner in Star Trek, I can't prove it otherwise. But did you notice, normally in modern Trek, this era onwards, unlike older Trek, you have different types of shields. Back in old Star Trek, you never actually saw them. It looked like they were going through the ship, purely because these shields literally hugged the whole hull, which was a downside, like an older, earlier technology. As shields went on, TNG era onwards, it was more of the bubble, which made sense because that the energy from the shields didn't go straight into the hull. So that made sense. What I'm thinking here, and again, I can't prove it, I'm not saying your point's wrong, is these 3 Texas class ships, especially the 2 that it calls upon, the Alito, were inside the shields. So when it's firing on the space station, you don't see the hitting of the shields effect, which you normally see in TNG era onwards. It's very visible, and I think it's a good part of a plot because you can see what's actually happening for the noob out there. All 3 ships are, I think, inside, because bear in mind, shields go quite far out as well from ships, especially starbases. It does have immense power, Gray. You're right. That's one thing about starbase, especially that style of starbase. The big, for people listening to this or have not watched the episode, it's this typical one from the one outside Earth's orbit, and it's the big long one with the kind of dome at the top. The classic one, the one I love. It's got a massive power core, and it's got good shields. So if these ships are
not even a question. Have you ever seen episodes of the older station like you're talking about, which we saw, and you saw the Enterprise, okay, top of the line,
it's tiny.
Enterprise, right? It's this big,
Yeah.
going into the station. So you're going to tell me that station can be taken almost completely out by a couple of other ships?
No,
Nope.
I'm not necessarily saying that. Definitely not. No.
I can't go along with the inside the bubble thing because first of all, think about it. If you have enough technology to create a bubble, and you also had the technology to have it hug your ship tightly, it's a matter of flipping a button and have it hug the station.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
Or even more intelligently, they would have a series of shields on a station that big. You have your outer,
and then backup shields,
and you have your inner, and both are working. So that is, and I understand what you're saying, but it's to me that's completely you can't do it. Not ever gonna happen.
I think that's my reason for it. I think that's why it happened. I'm trying to think the way these writers are thinking, you know, and they're wrong.
Right, which is exactly.
I know they're wrong, but I'm a writer for a moment, Gray. I'm trying to think what they're thinking doing this, because if that's the case, if they're outside the shield's argument's sake, right, then I'm again pissed off, because I should see, you see this in this series actually, you do see the ships getting shot upon, especially when the starbase is firing back at the Alero. You see the shield hits around it, but you don't see that in the starbase, and that's annoying. So they're probably inside, although I can't prove it. I know I can't prove that.
It does, right? And you're telling me that okay, like you said, you can fire on the ships and you see the ship shield, but of course the starbase has nothing.
No,
because these weapons go right through it and start pulverizing the station. Of course, that's never going to happen.
Another reason why I think it takes out, the Lido takes out some of its weapons, the Starbase's weapons, really easily, is because, again, I think it's in the shields. You don't see a shot. A shot can't come through the shield and then hit the weapons. It has to either phase through the shields, which we've seen before, or it has to be, the shields have to be down, or it has to be inside the shields to then take it out in one go. We don't know for sure, but I mean it's bad writing again. I'm not denying that. Right. I think as well, Gray, that I can't prove this point either, but a starbase is heavily shielded and defended, right? I know this much. It's got a core at the bottom, power core, to keep it going. The shields are really powerful. So you're right. If it were outside the shields, I don't think it would stand a chance unless you've got a fleet taking it down. Hang on. The defensive weapons, I don't think these star bases, they have weapons on them, but they don't have shit tons of phaser arrays, shit tons of photon torpedoes. That they've got some. They rely mostly on their shields, and I think I've seen this or heard this in Star Trek before, Gray. That star base of that type also relies on ships inside for armament. The ships would come out and start firing. So yeah, on you go.
Right, exactly. There would be ships inside. You know that the station is not going to go without fight. Right, you're not going to have. You're not going to go a station of that size without fighters. So you're going to have fighters that may be on close to, if not equal to, a Defiant class, and these fighters are going to come out, smaller versions, let's say, of a Defiant.
And you don't see them.
They're going to come streaming out of the space station to beat the crap out of you before you even have a chance to get through the shields, let alone the fact that you ain't going to get through the shields anyway.
Where were they, Gray? Why was there nothing inside?
On top of that, even if you don't have a phaser array, which I'm sure they do on big stations.
No, they will. It's minimal.
They're defending themselves with massive size cannons. These cannons are the size of shuttlecraft. They're massive. Dude, all you need is one shot from that thing to hit you and you're gone. I mean, if a cannon of that size hits a Romulan warbird, it's blowing up. Up.
There's a reason, people, why in TNG era you never seen the Klingons, the Romulans, just gang up and go outside Earth and start pulverizing it.
And it makes total sense. Do you think Starfleet's going to send 3 ships to a Klingon station and try to blow it up?
No,
sure,
they send a fleet. That's what they do.
Exactly. You would have to, first of all, it would be insane to even send a fleet. But if you're gonna do it, you're gonna send about a dozen sovereign class ships,
And
and
lose
even
some,
that,
Grey, in the process.
and even that probably won't be enough. You have to bring at least 20 or 30 of these things. Again, people aren't thinking the station is freaking massive.
Yeah.
It's like the size of the moon. I mean, come on. It's just
So
it's just
you can see
unreal.
Gray and I's passion with this one here. I agree with a lot of stuff he says, and if it seems to you, Gray, or the listeners or the viewers, that I'm maybe trying to counter, I'm not. I'm actually doing what a good host would do and try to be as balanced as I possibly can, because I agree a lot of stuff with Gray. This is why it kind of works. He'll pick up on some things I've missed and vice versa. Gray remembers older Star Trek compared to me. I remember some more of the modern Trek because Gray doesn't like it. So, the yin to the yang. But we're passionate about it. This is why we talk about these things. But we'll move on because, believe you me, there's definitely more to go. We catch up with Beckett again, Mariner, sorry, I'm going surnames now, to find out where this funding's coming from for the Architect's ship, or fuel or supplies, everything, because when you're not in Starfleet, you need to pay for this shit, Gray. It turns out, because she's poking away Mariner on the console while the Architect goes, I don't know, to the loo or whatever, comes back, she catches Mariner in the computer, what you up to? She's like, I'm sorry, this is too sus here. I have to find out what the hell is going on. She went, yeah, okay, carry on then. And she finds out. She's like, oh, it's Admiral Picard that's funding it. And I was like, wow, this is great. This makes sense. He's the archaeology type. That's his shtick, Gray liked this as well. A little nod to Admiral Picard. This is when you use the Easter eggs and other characters well. A little cameo from him on like a message or something would have been cool on the view screen, cool. But yeah, I haven't seen animated Picard. I'd love to. We both like.
Again, it makes total sense. It's a great throwback. It's a nice
positive part of the episode,
and it makes sense because that's Picard likes that stuff. So obviously it makes sense. Perfect. Good
we
writing.
We liked that.
Yeah.
Don't know how the Admiral's funding it. He doesn't have money, but anyway, this is us getting down to the minute level.
I thought they mentioned, or I think they said
he probably just sells some of his stuff.
No. I think she mentioned the archaeologist lady. I thought she said something about an endowment. So what that is if you don't know what that is, anybody out there,
Admiral are you endowed, Gray?
Would be the figurehead, the man that spearheads the donations, let's say, to this cause. Yeah. So he puts a bunch of his money in, and then all his fellow philanthropists and everybody gather because, this is a cool cause because Admiral Picard's leading it, and they put all their money in.
Yeah.
And then that's how it works. So that's the feeling I got from it. And I thought she said endowment, which would makes total sense. But
yeah. So while this is happening, Mariner finds out on Federation News. I'm calling this. I don't know what channel or service this was. I'm calling it Fed News. She finds out that the starbase is getting attacked. Wants to go to the rescue. Now, I'm like, I'm sorry. Is there some automated satellite drone ship out of the range of everything recording all this while everyone's getting smashed up? I just thought it was a bit far-fetched. But then, to be fair, in modern day today, people do that during wars and stuff. They still record stuff, so I'll let them away with that one. So go Beckett to the rescue, or Mariner to rescue. She's going to save the day, and I knew she would. It's kind of cool how she does it, and we'll get to that, won't we? Yeah. So back to our battle. Between the Texas class ships, the Cerritos, the Starbase. Is it still Douglas Station at this case, Gray? I don't think they say, do they? Initially it was. Let's assume it was. Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, it's still Douglas Station, yeah. A Sovereign class ship warps in. Now, I didn't catch the name of it, the registry of it. Did you, Gray? They maybe mentioned it really briefly, but it was too quick, so it's another Sovereign class. I'm loving the fact they're using Sovereign classes well in this series of Lower Decks. So at the time, it's the toughest ship they've got. Well, maybe not. Maybe Defiant, but I'm a bit biased there. Anyhow,
Defiant's different class.
Smaller. Yeah. Hey, smaller doesn't mean better, worse.
No.
Insert joke here.
Point is
scale up a Defiant to a Sovereign class, and it'll smash it.
Yeah, well, you can't do that. That's the whole point of
Yeah, you
keeping them
can.
small. If you were
More
to if
everything.
you were to build a ship the size of the
Yeah, you can.
the Defiant,
Chief Miles
the
O'Brien.
size of a Sovereign class.
Chief Miles O'Brien fixed the original. He'll fix a bigger one, right?
Actually, what would be more, or would make more plausible sense, is that the Sovereign class flies in, and out the back end comes about a dozen Defiant class ships.
I mean,
That's what would
no,
happen.
that's not happening. I know it's got a big shuttle bay, mate, but it doesn't have a small star bay, a starship bay. It's a lot bigger than a shuttle or Defiant. But yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
to see it. Of course,
it
I
is,
would.
but it's not very big. I mean, easily you could fit a few of them on a Sovereign
I
class
would
ship.
love to see it. I'm not denying that. I definitely love to see it. So
They-
this Sovereign class ship does warp in, but the Texas. Then I don't like this. The Texas class ships, all three of them, gang up on it and start firing these new fancy weapons. Now, I say it with me, Gray. She's taking a pounding again.
Yeah.
And these fancy weapons, no one describes what they are. No one tells us what they are. It's like it's a pink. It's random. Pink. Why pink? A pink photon or type of torpedo that shoots out and then splits into like cluster torpedoes. Now, I wish someone had told us what they are, scanned it, because we don't have a clue what they are, and that annoys me. Gray, again, obviously, I'm not happy with this. Either is Gray, and you can tell us why you're not happy with this, Gray.
As we've been complaining before, when the Sovereign class ship comes in, remember, Sovereign class ship is a massive ship. It's a huge ship. Okay, it's top of the line. It's got the best shields,
Secondary shields, even.
the highest secondary shields, the highest tech, the highest class of armaments. Blah blah blah. So it flies in to help out, and these three Texas class ships make it look like Swiss cheese in about 5 seconds. And I'm sitting there going like, come on, this is totally ridiculous. You're not going to have three ships like that pulverize a sovereign in just a matter of a few seconds. Stupid again, definitely dumb. I don't care what new weapons these are. The new weapons aren't going to cut through everything like cheese. I mean, it's just too much to sit there and to have to try to accept.
Yeah.
And on top of that, as we said before, if the sovereign ship did come in, it still has all the backing of these huge weapons on the station and its shields. So now the sovereign could be hiding behind the shields of the station and pulverizing on its own. But of course, it just flies in and gets taken out. Yeah, sure. That's real easy.
Yeah.
It's just insane. And then aside from all that, okay, the Cerritos gets pounded to hell once again. And I can't
If
I
there's
can't handle this anymore.
if there's one word we take away from this season, it's pound or pounding. Because it happens a lot. Too much, unfortunately. I agree.
Yeah.
I've never known a ship ever in Star Trek, any ship, secondary, first
Nothing.
class, whatever, that's taken a pounding as much as this. It happens. It'll maybe happen once a season or something at best. And I'm not talking about fired upon, taking a bit of damage. I'm talking about getting properly smashed up, which it is. And it's annoying. Gray and I both hate that point. Again, being on my, not that I disagree with you, Gray, getting on my trying to be balanced diplomatic chair here, thinking like these writers, God forbid. And again, it would be crap writing if they were to then say, these Texas class ships are actually bigger than you think, because sometimes you don't get scale. Scale's difficult in this, and I don't see really properly how big they are. So I don't know how big they are. I don't know how powerful they really are, their shields, their weapons. Again, the point I made before, Gray, I wish they told us about these new torpedoes, because I know nothing about them. If they actually, again, good writing, if they just said, listen, this is a new thing, we've been developing for a while, it's now put into the Texas class, it's this new weapon, it's strong as hell, it smashes shields and then it clusters into more torpedoes and does a lot of damage. If they'd done that little bit of writing and fact-finding before and told us, the viewer, this, I would have bought it more than I did. But they didn't. We know nothing about it, so that's why you're pissed off. That's why I'm pissed off, because they haven't defended the writing by putting that in. We know nothing about these ships that look like they don't do much and they're smashing up a sovereign. You're right.
Okay.
Normally that wouldn't happen, mate. There would have to be three really powerful ships to do that.
Well, the other thing too, to add insult to injury, is when these new torpedoes, we'll call them, okay, go
Pike torpedoes.
to hit the sovereign. They don't just you don't just have one torpedo go through the hull. They had like 8 of them go through the hull of a Sovereign.
Did they go through the
8.
shields? They must
Oh,
have.
yeah, right through the shields. Oh, there was no issues.
That's bad
No,
writing
nothing.
again.
Shields did nothing. Went right through the hull of a Sovereign ship. Just goes right through the hull. Sure,
Wow.
that
Right.
that makes total sense.
See, that's another the point, Grain, I mentioned before. Our little heated debate about the space, the starbase getting smashed up and shields, no shields, inside, outside. Say they're outside the shields. You're trying to say this new fancy weapon can then go through shields and hit the starbase. Now that on paper would be the reason why that happened the way it happened, because it's going right through the shields. But again, we should see it go through the shields. You see these effects all the time in the TNG era of, just think Star Trek 7 Generations. You see it phase through the shields to show us, the viewer, what's happening. But they don't show you that. And again,
Right.
this is aimed at the cartoon audience. It's aimed at the maybe non-hardcore Trekkie that wouldn't care or pick something
Well,
like that up. But
they've got to. They have to cut corners because it's only a half an hour episode or whatever. But you can't cut corners that badly. I mean,
yeah.
it's just, they're just totally.
Mate,
Just
they've
totally
cut
ridiculous.
corners that bad, they're doing a circle. They're coming back in
Exactly.
themselves.
And the thing that's silly is that even if you take for a moment that these weapons are so fantastic, which I refuse to believe.
Yeah,
that-
because we have no
that these-
backstory on them. So you're right.
Exactly, and even whatever backstory there was, I still would find hard to believe. But for the moment, let's just accept that. Okay, so if these first few phaser blasts and or torpedoes got through the shields, you don't think that the station, after getting hit by a couple of these, is going to quickly start phasing their shields to, and changing them so that they can quickly adapt, or at least adapt as much as possible. They're on it like a hawk on a rat. They're gonna sit there and just go like, all right, we're gonna start phasing these things off. We're gonna, and they would be doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And eventually, within the first couple of minutes, they're gonna figure out how to stop these things, or at least make them less effective.
They're not the
Because
Borg.
that's
They're not going to adapt or change their shields.
No, but it's not like it's a difficult thing to do. In fact, they even mentioned in, I don't know if it was a Lower Decks episode or another one, but they said that the whole reason why a lot of times why weapons can get through the shields is because they're just not adjusted for what they're facing.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get a little bit of a grip on what it is, you can change the shields. That's why the shields work.
You see, all the time in Star Trek, they change the frequency of the shields. And if you can match the frequency like Star Trek Generations, it'll go right through it as if it didn't exist because it's matching the frequency. But no one ever knows the frequency of shields. That's the whole point.
Right.
Trying to hit the
right.
frequency is like, I don't know, a needle in a haystack. So
Right. It's right. So there's just, and even if I were to say for the moment that there was no shields around this giant station, right? Or they're totally ineffective, which is a big, it's impossible. That can never happen. But let's just say it did. It didn't matter. That many torpedoes going out is just going to be like the size of a grain of sand bouncing off a basketball, because the station is massive, dude. You're just not going to take down the station and mess it up like that.
yeah,
You're just not.
I think that's part of the problem.
And then think about it for a second too. Do you really think that the armor built into a station that size would be every bit as good as a starship, and actually much better than a starship with multiple layers?
No,
Of course
no,
it's going to.
No, because in the TNG era, the only ship we start finding out towards the end of it or not even TNG, DS9 onwards, the only ship that starts
Not
getting
the blade of
is a
armor.
blade of armor is a Defiant. And now after the Defiant gets it, every bloody ship seems to have it. But
Right,
at that stage, no one knows that star bases have a blade of armor. No one's ever
Okay,
said
but
that, so I can't assume they do.
You don't have to. My point is that a station that size is going to build layers of armor.
Yeah, it's
that
called a
ship
blade of
wouldn't bother
armor.
doing. Well, my point is that it's not a hard thing to sit there and go like, let's just keep laying layers of this, of what we have, because the station's not going anywhere. It's not a ship.
Mhm.
So you can actually spend more money to make the armor pretty thick. There's a difference between a 1-inch piece of steel and a 5-foot thick piece of steel. You ain't getting through it that easily. Okay, so the stations are going to be built like that. They're going to be built like freaking tanks. And tanks can take a punishment before they actually blow up.
There's a lot of assuming here, Gray. I like the
It's
facts.
not even assuming. It's normal.
Prove
That's
it. Prove it.
That's
Prove it.
That's logic.
Go to Memory Alpha and prove it to me. No, I'm saying
I mean,
I'm just being devil's advocate again.
But that's right. But that's common knowledge. I mean, if you even go to
Is
the
it?
Navy, if you go to the Navy today, do you think the armor of the World War II ships compared to the armor of today's? No, but if you have enough thickness of armor, you're going to slow down what happens to your ship, at least to a point, until it gets through all that armor.
No, I get you, man.
Why do they? I'll give you another example. Why do they build bunkers that have 10-foot thick concrete walls or whatever, and maybe even steel in between? Because the more thickness you put in there, the harder it is for you to get through it.
That's
So
what
you mean
she
to tell me
said.
that a state? So you mean to tell me a station added to the shields, you're not going to build armor pretty thick on the
Great.
on the station?
I'm not saying you're wrong. You maybe I don't.
No, I know you're
I'm
not.
not. I'm not.
I'm talking.
I'm saying you're not
I'm
right or wrong. You don't. You're assuming, and I don't think that's a bad thing to do because we like to think logically. That's what we do. But it's just no one actually does a deep dive exactly like
right.
on a starbase like they do in a ship to what armaments it's got.
Right, but here's where
it's...
it falls on bad writing. If there's certain things you can assume pretty logically without getting too wacky, and this is one of them. I mean, it's so blatantly stupid what they wrote into it on multiple fronts. Okay, that it's just crazy. It's just you just can't do that. It's just totally unbelievable. In other words, stretch the boundaries of believability a little bit, but they didn't do that. They just completely snapped them and then some.
See, that's a good point. I'll touch on what Greg just said there. I think that sums it up nicely. Yeah, you can stretch things a little bit. Of course you can. We don't have a problem with that. But without evidence, without, if you're just completely ruining canon and not thinking about what you're doing or giving explanations, then people are going to get upset. I have to agree with that point, Gray. So anyway, right. So all these ships taking a pounding. The starbase is taking a pounding, rightly or wrongly. Captain Freeman hails the Lido AI, and says that she's got Rutherford. And because she's got Rutherford there, he can delete its AI. And initially Rutherford's caught off guard and he's like, oh, can I? Oh, yeah, I can. So I like that little touch. He's like, yeah, I'll take you down, you know? And the Texas-class ships actually stand down for a moment to kind of, collect their thoughts, their AI thoughts about what's going to happen, just in case this can actually happen. Now, the point is that they want to get the Texas-class ships away from the starbase because, again, she's taking a pounding. So, literally, Cerritos warps away. Carol Freeman says, because her saying is warp me, which I like. I mean, every captain's got to have their own saying. And she then says, basically, maximum warp me, which makes no sense, but it's her shtick. I like that line. Giving the station a break. The Alido, in fact, all the Texas-class ships follow suit, which was part of the plan. Gray notes here, it's a good scene. I think it was a good scene after a crap scene. So it's nice to see. Now, it's like yin and yang, good scene, bad scene, good scene, bad scene.
I got to interject again and go back to the Ultimate Computer. And they did it first years ago in the original series. And this was the whole thing where the AI looked at Rutherford and said, oh, that's Daddy. That's the guy that created me, right? They do it in the Ultimate Computer far better than this episode.
Nice.
And long ago, and was one of the first. I'm not going to say the only, because there was other science fiction movies out at the time, but they were one of the first that, and if not the first, that tackled this problem and did it well. So if anybody out there has not seen the original episodes, even if for whatever reason you don't want to watch all the episodes, go back and watch that one, because there's certain key episodes that are ranked up there in the best 10 to 15 of the whole series, and that's one of them.
I knew
really good.
I knew I had Gray on here for a reason. He remembers these things. Yeah, we like that scene. The chase is on between these four ships here. The Cerritos is now at maximum warp, giving it all she's got, pun intended. They literally at this point ask for Billups. It's not Phillips. It's Chief Engineer Billups. I remembered his name now. Freeman asks Billups, can you give me all you've got? And he kind of says, yeah, I'm giving you all you've got, but I'll try and squeeze a little bit more out. But maybe the pylons might not be able to take it, Captain. So which was a nice. You don't normally hear that. The pylons, when they are attached to the pylons, so yeah, all that stress is all that energy and speed is going to do something to the pylons, and you see the physical effects of the energy being too much. I like that. You don't see that too enough in Star Trek, so you can visibly see the Cerritos is under strain here at maximum warp.
I thought that was a good scene because those effects that we saw were often talked about, but I think because of cost-wise or whatever back then, they couldn't really show it because it would just been too expensive. But with animation and even CGI to some effect, but especially in animation, you can actually show that
Really
much more
well.
simply and a lot less expensive. And that truly would be what would happen if those kind of stresses were happening to it.
Yeah.
And so that was good. That was good to see.
I like to see that. They're trying to get suggestions because these Texas class ships are catching up. Surprise, surprise. You know, they'll get state of the art everything. Of course they do, Gray. So they're catching up on a Cali class ship, which I don't know its top warp speed, but it's bloody fast. Let's say that much. They're slowly but surely catching up. Freeman's asking for suggestions from the crew. Shax suggests ejecting the warp core and using it as a mine, but it's almost kind of dismissed, which I noted was a shame for Shax because they bypassed this a lot.
Let's go back for a second, though. That was for comedic reasons, which I thought was funny because
it's part of it.
Because Shax has said more than once, eject the warp core just because he keeps saying it. It's a funny line.
Fire this or do this or
right. But this time when he said it, it was hilarious because he was doing it to be, to make a point.
Serious.
But he wasn't really being serious, and he's just going eject the warp core. So and everybody's going like, you always say that, stuff like that. And y'all let you. Yeah, here comes the good scene.
It was a great scene because Boimler literally interrupts and tells everyone in the bridge to shut up. He's basically saying, Captain. She's like, what? What did you say to me? He's like, Captain, oh, listen to what Shax is saying. He's actually got a point. He did suggest, ejecting the warp core and using it as a mine. And she goes, oh, he always says that. That's why we kind of dismissed it, but. Yeah, actually, that's a bloody good idea. Let's go with it. So she gives him permission, and then he goes off. Now, that's a little bee in my bonnet here. He goes down to engineering, but as he's going along, he's cheering and smiling, and then everyone else is clapping him along the corridor. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, man, is he leaving the ship for good? Is he being promoted? What's going on here? What annoyed me here, Gray, and I mentioned it as well, was he didn't have to go down to engineering to eject the warp core. I think it was almost like a treat for him. She's allowing it to do him, but that's a time-wasting thing. Freeman should have just said in the bridge to Billups and to you guys, right, eject the core, do it. But because all he does is he goes down with Billups and turns two keys at the same time. I've never seen that for a warp core. Have you seen B'Elanna do this? Two keys?
No, but it does make sense because ejecting a warp core is not something you do.
It doesn't make sense. You've never seen it before. One person can do it. They do it all the time. Gone.
Right. Yeah, but in the time that he walked down there, they could have blown up the ship. But I'm letting it pass only because it was such a good scene and it was hilarious because he's always saying this, and now it's like I've always said this. Now I get to do it. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, all right, now I can understand. Hey, it's a comedy. It's an animated show. We got to cut some slack somewhere. So
says you that's just spent most of this episode slating them.
No, wait. I get it. I understand it. You're right. But if I'm going to cut slack to the writers, I'm going to cut it here because this made more sense to give them slack, and it was funny. The other stuff, forget it. You didn't get no slack. It was ridiculous.
No, I will give them slack as well. When I say they're small things, I genuinely mean they're small things. That's why they haven't brought my score down for the episode. But yeah, anyway, so digressing. So he literally goes down to engineering with Billups. They literally put two keys in as if it was something out of, I don't know, a modern bloody submarine with the captain and the first officer need to turn the two keys at the same time.
Launching nuclear weapons.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, actually. But I like that little touch. If they'd actually done that in other Star Trek stuff, Gray, that it's a serious thing. Two people need to do it. One person shouldn't do it. Maybe the turning of the keys is a bit silly, but...
Okay, now let's go back to the original series again.
Okay, if we could keep backtracking.
They didn't do the keys, but in the original series, they did do the part where they threatened to blow up the Enterprise, and they needed two officers to give the codes to blow up the ship, which in this case was Kirk and Spock.
Gray, they do this for Star Trek.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, they had to have three officers do this. because you just
true.
you just don't blatantly blow up a ship.
Yeah,
It was Kirk, Spock, and Scotty.
yeah.
They had to give the 0 0 destruct 0, and then finally the
you
ship.
do get through Star Trek that to blow up the ship, it's always 2 officers at least. It's always, and that's the way it should be. I'm just saying for something like this with the warp core, it should again still be 2 officers. Or I guess the key thing, that's the same difference, but 2 keys. Who has bloody keys in a starship? Anyway, right. So comedy, we're nitpicking. Moving on. So. The Cerritos at this point is adrift with no power because it's ejected the warp core. I get a little bit annoyed about this and can agreed with my point here because we've seen it before in Star Trek. Every time they've ejected the warp core, the warp nacelles power down. Obviously, there's no light to them anymore, but the lights over the ship in general are still working. It's got backups, it's got reserves, it's got battery reserves, it's still got shields and weapons. Yes, that energy wouldn't last nowhere near as long without the warp core because it regulates it all, but they still get plenty of power. When you see the Cerritos, it looked like it had no power at all. So show the lights still on. Something, man. You agreed with that point, Gray, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. It just things just didn't seem to make sense. If you're ejecting the warp core and you're going on emergency power and impulse, your lights are going to dim, or things will look darker, or things will go red, or whatever, showing that you've lost something, but
still
you're
have
still
power,
operable. And they look like there was no difference at all. They eject the warp core, we're fine. Like, what?
Yeah,
and I don't think so.
Ejecting the warp core is such a mechanic that's been used so much by Star Trek. I'm not going to complain about that point because if they do it and they do it well, I don't mind. And they did use it well this time here.
Yeah,
use it as a mine to detonate, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. The Lido, we see it. It's caught up. Looks like it survived the it survived the attack, but it has taken a bit of damage. So those mighty star-based weapons did make a detonate at least, which we would bloody hope so. Then here we go, fires on the Cerritos while it's unpowered, wherever, adrift, defenseless, and really smashes her up this time proper. Like one of the cells is gone, and I've just put in bold here again, goddamn joke. And Gray's just literally, small point, it isn't a massive rant, he's just literally put here, I'm truly speechless at this point. And that's saying something considering some of these long rants he's been on. But again, we've lost count. I've generally lost count. There should be one of these things, you get this sometimes, Gray, on reviews and stuff where it goes, let's count how many times they said this, or let's count how many times someone farted, and you get ding, 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 you know. We should have done this for this. We would have been well into double digits by now.
Who knows? It was once was enough, let alone twice being stupid. Now it's been like 7, 8, 9 times. Like, oh my god!
In a season, and that should be in a whole
in a season,
in a whole series at best. That should be happening, if that.
So basically, it's all the Cerritos got pounded almost as many times as there is episodes this season.
Oh, I could have put in another really, really rude joke there, but let's not do that. You can use your imagination, adult viewers. But yeah, anyway, so it probably has been pounded more than that as well, Gray. So Beckett arrives just as Freeman's going to abandon the ship because they don't really stand a chance. Now, you see Beckett arrive, you're like, she's this little shuttlecraft type ship. What the hell is she going to do? You know, maybe she's got some genius plan.
Nothing.
Yeah, she's going to hack in and disable the fleet, which would be lame, but, you know, it makes sense for the limited resources she's got. Captain says, oh, thank you, you know, it's nice to actually see you again. What you going to do, though? You know, you're one ship. You're just alone. She went, I'm not alone. I brought help. Now, I loved this, but I generally love this. Is what brought it up a bit for me this episode. It's another Cali class ship. Of course it is. It's the Oakland, and you're still thinking, you know, Freeman's like, that's not enough. It's still not enough. We appreciate it, but it's not enough. You know, you need one ship. One Cali class ship won't do it, is what she says. And then Mariner turns around and went, good thing I brought all of them. And literally, the lower decks music comes on, the theme music. All these Cali class ships start warping in, and the hairs are standing in the back of my neck, giving me a bit more respect for the series, for the class of starship, for how it's just. Yeah, I just love the Cerritos more than I did before. Nowhere near my favourite starship, but it's went up a bit now. And loads of them warp onto the screen. Now, Gray's done a count here. He saw 26. I saw a free shot as well. I saw 20. There's probably more than 26. There was loads.
Yeah. That's just of what we saw. Everything was happening.
Yeah, so fast. And don't get me wrong, like, I liked that little touch. Like, literally, let's hail all the Cali class ships. Now, I found this hilarious, Gray, because every time they need help, any main starship or plot, what happens? We're the only ship in a bloody sector. So conveniently, all of them can get there, and they're close. They made up for it.
First of all, it was a great scene, but if you had to look at it a wee bit more realistic, there's no way every Cali ship's going to get there in time. It's just impossible.
Some of them, yeah.
But a bunch would make it, and at least it made the point. So.
Yeah, and I think what gives a little bit of defence to the writers, again, because I'm trying to be in the neutral chair here.
I don't blame them for that one. That's fine.
Yeah,
you can accept that.
If you're given a little bit of credit, if these Texas class ships are as powerful as the writers are making them out to be, again without evidence, then it's the number of Cali class ships that turn up where it's probably going to be required for these ships that are so bloody outgunned and like, make the Defiant look like a bloody shuttlecraft, and again, that would piss me off, obviously, because the Defiant's my baby. But yeah, so there's a lot of bloody starships. Let's say it this way: one of the ships has. I noticed this, but Gray, they do go around a couple of the Cali class ships, and because we've been introduced to some of them through the 3 seasons.
You did see one or two that you recognized the captains. And
the guy with like the facial, the big like fuzzy hair, like a Wookiee type thing. You see him, and you see a few of them, and one of them we don't know has a couple of insectoid type officers that look a bit like Boimler and Mariner, but they're insectoids with the big ears and the
and one of them looked like a giant fly sitting at the helm.
And you're like, what? But I like that. I'll take this.
But technically that could be possible because
if there's bloody cats in it, mate, anything is possible. The world's
there you go. Right.
The universe is your oyster. Big fan of this scene. Generally, that made me smile. Really did. Probably the best bit of the episode for me, anyway. And then what we see is the Lido taking a pounding for once. It doesn't know what to do. It's trying to track onto different ships. There's so many of them, it's overwhelming it. It then starts, right, okay, it's going to use its pink torpedoes. I'm just going to slag the weapon by calling them pink torpedoes, because that's what they are. They're like torpedoes that break into cluster bombs or mines, So we're going to...
Of course, now, here's another thing that's kind of stupid. All right, the ship just got blown out by a warp core explosion, which technically really should have took it out. But if it's not going to take it out, it's got to be pretty battered.
Well, it is. You see it visibly.
It is, but of course, it's not battered enough that it can't lock onto every ship or try to lock onto every ship. And of course, it's not battered enough to get ready to shoot all the torpedoes.
You can't lock onto 30 plus starships at the same time.
No, I agree. But it's trying to do that.
Yeah, it's trying.
But it's been battered, and you mean to tell me that your torpedoes are fine after a warp core explosion?
It's the pink torpedoes, mate. Don't mess with the pink torpedoes.
Oh yeah, don't mess with the pink torpedoes. So sure, they're gonna come out. They're gonna come out of all that and just go like, our weapons work perfectly.
But it's a plot point. So these torpedoes are still working. The units are completely intact. It fires its new weapon towards the Cerritos, and that would take it out, no problem, the state it's in and how pink these torpedoes are. But Mariner comes to the rescue here with a little shuttlecraft type ship, phasers the torpedo out of the sky, so it's good to know a phaser shot takes it out. Not as powerful as we thought, pink torpedoes.
Of course, to interrupt again, of course, they couldn't figure that out before. An entire space station couldn't figure that out before, just to fire something at it. Of course not.
You got it.
But a little ship, a little shuttlecraft figured it out.
Well, it's Mariner. She's a genius. Yeah. I think part of the key here is firing at it before it clusters. Because when it clusters, you're screwed. You can't lock on till that. She's hit it early. She's taken it out. She's destroyed it. Good. The Cali fleet finally destroyed the Lido, just smashing it at the same time. Back at the batter station, I counted 20 ships out round Douglas Station. There was probably more, though. That's all you saw at a freeze frame. I was happy here because Bell Beckett Mariner, I need to stop doing that, rejoins Starfleet. So does the architect as well. You see her there because she used to be an officer. That's what we forget. She used to be an officer a long time ago. She sacked it off because she was fed up with the Federation and their ways. But she's joined again because she saw, I don't know, our love interest is there, our pals there, and she saw maybe the good side of Starfleet again. Tindy, a couple of notes at the end. Tindy gets a new study buddy. It's a Vulcan officer. She runs up to her, grabs her hand, and I want you to meet everyone. Being this officer, being Vulcan, is just like, yeah, please leave me alone. But Tindy, being Tindy, is dragging her along.
How do I get stuck with this?
You need to meet everyone. You know, that kind of thing. Boimler, we both like this point here. Boimler, Shax approaches Boimler, and Boimler's like, "Listen, I'm really sorry, blah blah blah." And and Shax is like, "Hey, it's fine." You know, they're making up. They're pals. He's now in the bear pack now. Shax's bear pack, and now Boimler's new bridge buddy is going to be Shax after Shax offers him it. We love that. We both loved that point, Gray, didn't we? It was a nice kind of ending to that part.
It was really good.
Yeah,
it really made a lot of sense. It went along with the type of the characters, how they react or how they are with each other. So that was fine.
Yeah.
That was really good.
We liked
I
that.
almost was expecting, it didn't happen, but I was almost expecting Tendi to get like some kind of minor promotion. It was almost the way they were talking about it. And I was thinking like, we're going to give you like a half, because they do have half pips, you know, on the collar.
Yeah.
Whatever rank that is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would have been appropriate to give her like a little minor
promotion. It is great, but the thing here, you've got to be careful because these are our main officers here are not officers really, they're ensigns. They can't rank up too quickly. It's the whole Ensign Harry Kim thing. Although he should have had a bloody promotion, everyone else did, and he didn't. You can't rank them up too far because they're supposed to be ensigns. They're supposed to be the main guys. But if you're going to do the promotion, the small promotions, pick and choose carefully when to do it, and don't do it too often because you want to keep them together. But I wouldn't have been against it, Gray. Certainly not.
Well, the other thing they could have done, and they do this in the military too. They may not always use a rank medal or another pip or whatever, but they have stripes, ribbons, and things like that. You know, you see some of them that have been some highly decorated veterans. They have like they may have ribbons and things going all the way down their sleeve. So they could have given her an accommodation ribbon that she could have put on her uniform. Why? That's not unheard of. I mean, those are little things that I was expecting.
Why Tindy? Why Tindy, not Boimler or Mariner?
It doesn't mean that they would not get it at some point in the series too.
But why
that's
Tindy?
what I'm kind of talking about. Because at the moment, what she did, or what she's done or did, whatever, they were commendating her. They're like gushing all over her. I'm like, okay.
Well, by giving her a study buddy, that's yeah.
And they've done so many different things. So technically, your study buddy, you could be a little higher. I don't know. I know it's little things.
You want
but
to see recognition.
Nice to see.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and there's no reason why Beckett, Boimler, and the rest of them shouldn't get little things. I mean, Rutherford. Okay, they supposedly built these stupid Texas class ships on his code. Well, wouldn't you automatically assume, wow, Rutherford's got some. He's got some chops. He needs to be promoted. He needs to be promoted like off of this.
Get rid of Billups. We like him instead. Yeah, Billups is a bit crap.
Well, whatever. But that's my point. In a way, it's kind of like, don't you think Starfleet might come knocking at the door and go like, "Wow, that's pretty good coding. I think you need to come aboard our ship."
Well, they did at least three times for Riker, and he said no.
That's true.
Yeah, but anyway, right. So we will wrap up. We're almost there. People promise. The last part of the episode here, we literally we have one thing I actually missed out here was they asked why Rutherford was keeping his eye patch thing after what happened because he doesn't really need it anymore. He just explains it's part of him. He wants to keep it. He's scanning everyone. He says, "Listen, I'm using the cool stuff." He's like scanning everyone and heat vision and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, man, it's like Superman mixed in with the Borg here. He's using different spectrums when he's scanning away. But no, he's keeping that. We have Captain Freeman apologising to her daughter Mariner. They make up. Mariner understands why our mum done what she done, but they hug and make up. And then she said, "Listen, do you mind if I have a mentor? Maybe Commander Ransom could mentor me. And the captain calls over, Jack, you're gonna be mentoring my daughter, and he's like, no, please God, no, come on, because he done that earlier on in the season because she was misbehaving, and it was to keep an eye on her. He didn't think it would be permanent. They're now at the stage where she hated him more than he hated her, although he still disliked her. She kind of likes him now, but he's not. Well, he's got a bit of respect for her. He's still not a fan of her, so he's like, "Oh God, no! Please kill me now."
I think it's more in the character of Ransom too, because Ransom would rather be like flirting and pushing weights and working out, and he doesn't want any more responsibility than the responsibility he has. It's kind of like I'm in my zone. I'm good. Leave me alone.
Yeah, no, I did. As long ending it well is important. I thought they did end it well here. So I put here. I like the Cali class more than I used to. It still looks a bit ugly for me, but it's a workhorse. I love it in that respect. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I was almost tempted to bring it down one notch to. I'm going to say 7.5 out of 10. There you go. I've dropped it half a point. Purely because a lot of these points obviously pissed us both off, especially Gray, and I get them. I try to give the writers the benefit of the doubt. Too much. I know I'm a softie. Gray's doesn't take any prisoners, that one, and nor should you, Gray. Keep being you, because we need a balanced argument here. Gray, you gave it a 5 out of 10 for maybe obvious reasons, yeah.
And if it wasn't for the Dr. Tiana scenes and a couple of other things that they did well, some of the Beckett scenes and the stuff that they did do very well, I'd give this like a 2.
Yeah.
So in other words, I kind of like, we always talk about there's a plot A and a plot B going on, or a storyline A, storyline B. So the storyline B stuff that was going on, Beckett and other things, that was all fine, but the main storyline A was garbage. So I couldn't give it more than a 5 out of 10.
Fair enough, Gray. This is why we like opinions here. I mean, this is probably the biggest difference Gray and I've had between any of the episodes so far, but it wasn't going to be completely the same for the whole season, so a little bit of a change there, but I think we see each other's points and understand them for the most part.
Wait, but before we say goodbye, though, you should give what you
I've got another hour to go, Gray. What are you saying? No, carry on. I'm joking.
What is your overall out of 10 rating
for the whole season?
Season 3, yeah.
Oh God! Oh, you put me on the spot. I am going to.
All right, I'll give you mine if you want.
Right, go.
Okay, I go 6.5 out of 10 for the whole season.
Yeah,
the reason why I go a little bit lower, because I was thinking about 7, because the previous seasons 1 and 2, I gave it a 7. This one I had to go lower than a 7, and
Ali ruined it.
Simply because they've had some very low episodes ever since the Deep Space Nine one. I mean,
they
were not good.
That was their peak.
Right, they were not good. So, and there was 2 or 3 of them in a row that were not good.
Yeah.
And then this one that caps off all the stupid stuff that all in one episode, and that just did it for me.
Fair enough.
So I'm being kind at 6.5 out of 10. I would probably be willing to go 6 out of 10 for the season.
I will then give it a 7 out of 10. I was humming and hawing about it. I wasn't sure. I will give it a 7. Yeah. Not a 7 minus, maybe, if that's a thing. I've just made that scaling up. I'm being generous to it by that. Some good episodes. DS9 episode was the best one by a mile. Gray and I both think that. We both love it. It's just the peak too early, and it went kind of downhill. If they hadn't screwed up a lot of these canon points and plot points in the finale would have been a better episode by a couple of marks at least, and it would have brought the average up for the season.
If they could have corrected and handled differently all the points that you and I agree that we don't like, this would easily have been an 8 out of 10 episode, maybe even 9 out of 10.
Yeah, agree. Easily. That's why I gave it 8. Yeah.
And they just buried it because of that stuff. And it wasn't just because they made one mistake. It was like multiple mistakes.
Yeah.
Idiotic stuff.
They've had more than one chance. Right. Okay, so we will finish it off there, guys. It has been probably double the length of the episode, but do you want to know something? I'm not surprised. With so many issues we had to discuss, it was the finale, it was a beefy episode. It had to be done, no regrets. I hope you enjoy it. You may have to watch this in installments, I understand. But yeah, the usual call to arms, of course. if you like this format, talking heads, deep trek, reviews, opinions, diverging all the time, always give it a like, and a subscribe would really help us out massively. And yeah, as Grace saying there, comments below as well, because we always want opinions from people that watch it. Don't be scared to ask for things you want to see or hear, or things you want to be covered or reviewed. Ask questions if you want as well. We can bring them up. And before that as well, we are on audio podcast platforms. Whatever one you like, it's probably going to be on there if you just want the audio, not the video. And once a month, we do Grey's Pod, which is GGR. It's an entertainment-focused podcast. We will do one-off specials as well. We've moved to YouTube for that. So we will do our monthly show, of course, but whatever it is, a big movie comes out or whatever, we'll jump on it, do a special, and get more content out to you there. They're ad hoc, like my specials are, our specials, they every now and again. And then lastly, the Trekway on Twitter is the handle for this. And if you like gaming, both of us come from the Extreme PC UK podcast, and we can be found on there if you just search for the Therenem on the internet. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Great. It's been a long one.
And if you need to know where some of these things are, look down below, because there'll be links to.
Oh, always. Everything's always in the blurb description below to cover us, because I probably forget something like I normally do. But yeah, we'll let you get away, Gray, for a drink. I'm a bit parched after that. And yeah, until the next time. Well, in fact, the next episode will be the first episode of 1.5 of Prodigy, which we'll be doing tomorrow. So keep tuned if you want to. We're really looking forward to that, safe to say, Gray. Probably more so than Nordex. So, yes. Yep. Right, awesome, guys. Thank you. Until the next time, do your thing, Gray. Live long and prosper. Cheers.
Live long and prosper.
Bye-bye.